Welcome, my dear learners. I am Dr. Rasmeet Kaur Malhi, Assistant Professor, Department of Management from the Bhopal School of Social Sciences. And in this video, today we will be talking about performance appraisal, a topic from the subject Human Resource Management. Let's have a quick overview on the topics which we are going to cover today. We will be covering about what is meaning of performance appraisal, what is need and importance of performance appraisal systems in the organization. Also, further we will be discussing about what is the process of performance appraisal in an organization. Moving on, we will be discussing what are the rules which are required for a good performance appraisal system in an organization. And lastly, we will be discussing what are the different methods of performance appraisal which is used in an organization. Let's understand what is the meaning of this term performance appraisal. Performance appraisal can be described as a systematic evaluation of performances of several employees so that they can understand all the abilities of a person and which is required for their development and growth. It basically includes measuring the pay of the employees and comparing it with the plans and targets which are set in the organization. Let's understand this concept further. Performance appraisal can be said that it is done on a continuous basis in the organization. It is basically required to determine the contribution which is actually done by the employees to attain the given objectives. Performance appraisal also relates to the quality of work performance and work relationship. It is expressed as personal opinions, merit ratings, employees' evaluations, and also in the form of progress reports by the performance appraisers. Now let's discuss what is the need and importance of doing performance appraisal in an organization. When we talk about the need of conducting performance appraisal in the organization, it is done basically to ascertain whether the behavior is integrated with the role requirement of an employee in the organization. It is considered to measure the success and failure of an employee in the organization. Also, it serves as a basis for promotion, transfers and trainings of an employee. The data which is used basically from the performance appraisal is used for selection, for training and development for the employees in the organization. Also, it helps to ascertain the potential which the good performance have so that the special projects can be assigned to them. It also pinpoints the poor performance and helps the management to take corrective actions. It reduces grievances of employee in the organization if done in a very proper manner without biasness. Also, it improves the job performance of an employee. And finally, it indicates to the employee about his or her accomplishments. Let us understand the process of performance appraisal in an organization. Basically, in any organization, when you do appraisals, there are certain steps which are followed. Beginning with the first one is to set the performance standards. This is also called as establishing the performance standards. Like the other departmental goals and objectives, the performance standards should also be SMART. That is, they should be specific, they should be measurable, they should be achievable, they should be relevant, and also they should be time bound. These standards, when they are set, they should be communicated to the employees who are working in the organization. So the second step which comes in the process of performance appraisal is to communicate these standards to the employees. It is a very, very important step because the employees should know that what is that which management is expecting from them. Once it is communicated, then comes the third step, which is measuring these standards. Measuring standard means the actual performance of the employee in the organization. Once this step is also done, then comes the comparing the standards with the actual performance or the actual standards. So in this step, basically you measure the actual standards and compare it with the standards which are set by the organization. Then comes the next step, which talks about discussing the results. Discussing the result is a step where, after the standards are compared with the actual performance, it is discussed with the employees. After this comes the step which talks about taking corrective actions or taking certain steps after the standards are being compared. So if there are proper trainings to be arranged for the poor performers, then on the basis of the results which are achieved, the management plans for the training program. On the contrary, if the standards are accomplished by the employees and they have to be rewarded for their performance, that also is done when the corrective actions or when the performances are compared with the standard. So this is the process of the performance appraisal system which is followed in the organization. It should be done without doing any biasness. So the rater has to be very cautious when he or she follows this system in the organization. Let's understand what are the important rules which are required for a good performance appraisal system in an organization. For any performance appraisal to be effective, it is very important that it should encompass all the levels and category of employees. The evaluators, the one who are involved in doing the performance appraisal, proper training should be given to them. Also, the evaluators should know the purpose and value of that particular plan for which the appraisals are done. The factors and the terms of evaluation should be clearly understood to the evaluators. They should measure the performances against the organization's need, and personal ratings or personal biasness has to be avoided. All these appraisals should be clearly linked to the promotion, training and transfer policies of the organization. Now let's understand or move on to what are the different methods which are used for doing the performance appraisal. Moving on to the methods of performance appraisal, broadly we can classify them as the traditional method and the modern method. Now let's move on to the methods of performance appraisal. Broadly, the methods of performance appraisal can be classified as the traditional method and the modern methods. Let's have a quick look on what are the different traditional and the modern methods. Moving on to the traditional methods, there are various traditional methods which are used for appraising the performance appraisals of employee in the organization. In this video, we will be covering the traditional methods like the ranking method, paired comparison method, grading method, forced distribution method and the confidential reports. Similarly, there are various modern methods of appraisals which are used to appraise the performances of employee. But in this video, we will be talking about few of the modern methods like management by objective, which is also known as MBO, behaviorally anchored rating scales, which is known as BARS method, assessment centers, 360-degree performance appraisal method and human resource accounting, that is HRA. Let's start with the traditional methods of performance appraisal. To begin with, the first one, that is the ranking method. Ranking method is said to be the oldest and the simplest formal systematic method of appraising the employees in the organization. Through this method, the appraisal of an employee is compared with all the others for the purpose of placing the order of worth of that particular employee in the organization. In this, the employees are ranked either from highest to lowest or best to worst as per their performances in the organization. The second method is paired comparison. Again, this is one of the traditional methods of appraising the employees. In this method, each employee is compared with the other employee on one-to-one basis only, not as what was done in the prior method, that is the ranking method. In this, the rater is provided with a bunch of slips, each coining pair of the names, and the rater puts a tick mark against the employee whom he feels has a better performance than the other. Let's move on to the third method of performance appraisal, that is grading method. In this method, basically there are certain categories of worth which are established in advance and are clearly defined. They can be like outstanding, satisfactory and unsatisfactory performance of employees in the organization. Then these employees are allocated on the basis of those grades as per their performance which they have done in the organization for a period of time. In the next method, that is the forced distribution method, we can say that this method assumes that the employee's performance level conforms to a normal statistical distribution, that is 10, 20, 40, coming down to again 20, 10 and then so on. So this is basically used for rating large number of employees' job performance and also their promotional ability. Basically, through this method, the rater tries to reduce the rater's biasness or eliminate the biasness of the rater in the organization. Moving on to the fifth type of traditional method is the confidential reports. They are basically the traditional way of appraising the employees, and it is basically used in the government departments. You will find through this method, the evaluation is made by the immediate boss or supervisor for getting effect to promotion and the transfers of employees. Usually, a very structured format is devised to collect the information about that particular employee's strength, weakness, intelligence, attitude, character, attendance, discipline and other traits, so on. So let us move on to a modern method of performance appraisal, that is management by objective, which is also known as MBO. This concept was given by Peter Drucker. Through this method, basically the goals are identified and are jointly defined by the superiors and the subordinate managers of an organization, where they define each individual's major area of responsibility in terms of the results which is expected out of them. And then these are used to measure the performance of the employees and to assess their contribution of each of its members. Second modern method of performance appraisal, which is commonly used nowadays, is called as behaviorally anchored rating scales or BARS method. Basically, the BARS are designed to bring the benefits of both the qualitative and the quantitative data of the employee's appraisal process. BARS basically compare an individual's performance against specific examples of behavior that are anchored to numerical rating. Let's have a quick look on how does this particular method is implemented in the organization. As you can see, this is an example of the BARS method which is used for appraising the employee. Here, as you can see, the different types of factors are like quantity of work, quality of work and judgment. Few of these factors are actually rated on different scales. Here it is a 3-point scale which is used to measure these factors. Like quantity of work, volume can be low and erratic, satisfactory and steady volume, or it can be volume above expectation. Similarly, when we talk about quality of work, the quality of work of an employee could be the results are always accurate and a model work is done by him or her, or the results are accurate and thorough, or I can say that the results are generally inaccurate and are not thorough. Third factor which is used is the judgment of an employee. So we can say that judgment skill can be measured as a very systematic, analytical and good with the complex problems an employee has those judgment skills, or the employee has certain practical judgment skills to solve problems but has difficulty with assessing different value of these factors. And the third scale which can be used for judgment is that it does not always show good judgment, problem analysis, and these skills are not sufficiently adequate. So let us move on to the third modern method of performance appraisal, that is assessment centers. Assessment center is basically a central location where the managers may come together to participate in job-related exercises which is evaluated by the trained observers. Here, the principal idea is basically to evaluate the managers over a period of time by observing and then later evaluating their behavior. This is the assessment center method which is commonly nowadays used in many of the organizations to appraise the performance of the managers. Moving on to the fourth modern method of performance appraisal is 360-degree performance appraisal method. Under this method, basically an employee is appraised by his supervisor, subordinates, peers, customers with whom he interacts in the course of his job performance. All these appraisers provide information or feedback on the employee by completing a survey questionnaire which is designed for basically this purpose by the management. Last modern method which we are going to cover in this video is human resource accounting method, which is also known as HRA. In human resource accounting method, basically you attach money value to the value of firm's internal human resources and it is external goodwill. Under this method, the performance is judged in terms of cost and contributions of employees. So basically, the difference between the cost and the contribution will reflect the performance of an employee in the organization. So with these methods of performance appraisal, we come to end of this video. I hope this video will help you understand the concept of performance appraisal in human resource management. Thank you for watching this video.